I am really excited to announce that I finally have all of my 2024-2025 book selections picked out. And I think some of you have been waiting for it as well. And so if you want to hear about all the books that I have chosen, all of the curriculum that I have chosen for my grade 1 and grade 5 student this coming year, stick around. So I'm not going to go into detail about the curriculum and the books that I have chosen. Instead, I'm really just going to list them for you here today. And then in future videos, I'm going to discuss further each curriculum, how I plan to do it, and all of those details that you might be interested in. So without further ado, let me begin with my grade 1 student for this coming year. Spoiler alert, I am switching math again, and I do plan on making another video about all the reasons why. I don't want to go into that details now because I don't want to make this video any longer than it needs to be. So for my grade 1 student, I'm going to be using Matthew C. Level Alpha. And I will also be incorporating some of Beauty and Truth's lesson plans as well for year 1. But for the most part, we will be following Matthew C. For language arts, we're going to be using First Language Lessons Level 1. We're going to be using Writing with Ease Level 1, and those are both by the Well-Trained Mind. I'm going to be we'll be continuing to use An Ordinary Parent's Guide to Teaching Reading. We are right now at about lesson 75, I believe, and it goes all the way to 90 lessons. So we are even doing that through the summer. So chances are we may be done before the school year begins. And then after that book, they just say to go right into reading books. So that's what we'll be doing for reading. We're going to be starting with Spelling Workout Level A, and we're going to be doing a handwriting curriculum course called the Canadian Handwriting Level Book A for Eliana. I can explain it in another video, but very simply, it was just very cheap, affordable. The shipping wasn't outrageous the way the Good and the Beautiful shipping to Canada can be. Plus, we often have to pay for duty on top of that when it arrives at our door. So I chose this. I have it already in hand. We like it, and it's just a handwriting curriculum, so it doesn't have to be anything special, really. For literature, we're going to be reading E. Nesbit's Beautiful Stories from Shakespeare for Children. We're going to start that up again. We did start it last year, but we're going to restart reading those stories again. And I don't have all the specific literature picks that we'll be going through, but we will be starting with Charlotte's Web in September. And then from there, we'll just kind of really just allow her to pick and choose from our list of classic books that she wants to go to next. For history, as a family, we are going to be doing Story of the World, Volume 3, which is pre-modern times. That is from the period 1600 to 1850. And that incorporates a lot of geography, but we're mostly going to be following that as our spine, as well as they do have a reading list within the activity guide that lets you kind of follow your own interests and read supplemental reading according to that timeline. And for Eliana, we are also going to be doing where you study your country, the first peoples of your country. That's how history starts off with Charlotte Mason, and it's going to be through the Alviary. So the book selections that I have for that will be The Very First Americans, Itzy Selyu Cherokee Harvest Festival, and Hiawatha and the Peacemaker. And if we get through those selections, I may pick up a few more, but those will start us off for the year. For geography, we're also going to follow the Alviary's geography. They are going to be covering for grade 1 geography a book called Me on the Map, What Makes Day and Night, The Reasons for the Seasons, Down Comes the Rain, and cross-country geography for children is not on the book list this year, but it's an excellent book that my friend loaned me, and it's going to be, it has passages throughout it that kind of go across the country and talk about different things that will of interest across the map. And it will be the United States. However, United States and Canada, we have a lot of similarities for the first peoples, and so it still will be very informational for us as Canadians. For science, we are going to be, I normally choose Apologia. However, this year we are doing science as a co-op. And as a group of parents, it was decided that we would choose Berean Builders. Now, Berean Builders is very similar to Apologia in their layout, in their lesson planning, in the text, and all of that stuff. It's really written quite similarly and follows the same kind of pattern of lessons. So we'll be doing Berean Builders Science in the beginning. I'm going to be teaching that at our co-op, and that's going to be we'll be reading passages twice a week, and then on the Fridays, on the co-op days, we'll be doing experiments and labs and notebooking and all that kind of stuff. And Eliana, my grade 1 student, will also be doing nature study, and I picked up the nature study, the Christian Liberty Nature Reader Book 1. So those are just basic little stories that she will be able to read about different things in nature, like insects and plants and different kinds of things like that. For poetry, we are also following the Alvieri's Poetry Guide. So 2 of the books I picked up so far, but there are a few others on the list. We'll be doing the National Geographic's Book of Animal Poetry and Earth Under Sky Bear's Feet. Those are 2 books that we will be reading and looking at, and they have the guides for that, so they tell you what poem to read and when, and all the different activities and things that they recommend to go along with that. For Bible, we are also following the Alvieri's Bible plan. And for the children for grade 1, they begin with Hurlbut's Story of the Bible. It's really a great picture story Bible that talks about all the different main stories throughout the Bible, their characters, and it just opens up a great discussion and makes it easier in bite-sized pieces for the littles to understand. And I think we're going to be actually doing that as a morning read aloud so that both of my children can really begin to get a good foundation in all the Bible stories there, because sometimes it's hard to really get through them all, and there's many to cover within the Bible. So this is a good way to get a few more of those foundational stories in. For French, they are going to be learning French in our co-op as well. And so I'm not going to be doing a separate French curriculum for Eliana, my grade 1 student. She is going to be doing Homeschooling Languages. That's the name of the curriculum company. And they will be doing level 2 this coming year. So I will just allow her to follow along. The teacher plans to give some little assignments and things and practice for them to do during the week. And so that will be her French lesson for the school year. Now for composer study and artist study, I am going to return back to Ambleside Online. I have chosen their things because I really love the classics when it comes to art and composers. And so this year through Ambleside Online, we are going to be studying Beethoven, Vivaldi, and Chopin. And those are each covered over the 3 terms. And then we are going to be studying for the artist, Albrecht Dürer, Caravaggio, and Eugene Delacroix. And those will be the artists that we're going to study this year. We will also be following the Alvieri's recitation guide for grades 1 and 2, and they will be reciting things like Bible passages, poetry. They have different selections and excerpts that they will schedule out, and I won't go through all of those, but that's what we'll be following this coming year. And then both of my children are going to be focusing on the same handicraft, and we really want to hone in and work on it for probably, if not the whole year, for most of the year. We will be working on our sewing, our hand sewing. So now for my grade 5 student, she also, for math, will also be doing Math UC. Now right now she is doing Epsilon. Her goal is to finish Epsilon by the end of the summer and start Zeta. So I have here that she'll be doing Epsilon/Zeta for grade 5. And we will also continue using the lesson plans from Beauty and Truth Year 5. They're different styles of learning, and so for a little bit of supplementary teaching, we're going to go through the Beauty and Truth's lesson plans. For language arts, she will be doing First Language Lessons Level 4. It's the final one in the series. She will be starting Writing with Skill Level 1 for the first time. That one is a writing curriculum that will talk about outlining and all different parts of writing that is different from Writing with Ease. She's also going to be doing the Creative Writer, also by the Well-Trained Mind, Level 1, and that's going to be looking at all the parts of creative writing. We're going to start vocabulary for the first time. We'll be doing Wordly Wise 3000, Level 1. That's the older Wordly Wise curriculum. before the revision was made. That's one that seems to be the preferred one from a lot of the homeschoolers that I know of. And so we are going to start on that because I noticed this past year that there were still a lot of vocabulary words that I assumed she understood from passages but wasn't. And so we're going to hone in a little bit more on vocabulary. She's going to be moving into spelling workout level F, and she loves to do spelling tests. And so even though her spelling is excellent, she still likes to be tested. So we're going to continue working through those levels. And again, for her, I also chose Canadian handwriting, which is cursive level book E, which again is just a simple cursive writing. I don't know the different names and types of cursive writing, but I did look at it and I liked the style of cursive. It was what I learned when I was growing up. So that's what she's going to be continuing with. Now for literature, we are going to be picking 2 of the Alvieri's literature picks. So one is a single shard, which we will also be doing as a book club read in our co-op, and the last map maker. Those are both from the Alvieri, and in their literature guide, they will have it paced out with questions and activities to go along with that. I also chose 2 literature guides from The Brave Writer. We're going to be doing A Place to Hang the Moon and Pages & Co., The Book Wanderers. So those are 2 more that we will do. And then for literature, we're also going to be reading 2 Shakespeare plays, and these guides are through the Alvieri. We'll be reading Hamlet and The Taming of the Shrew. And the Alvieri does an excellent job of providing us with a guide to follow along Shakespeare, and just really helps us through how we can teach it and what activities and things we can do, giving us great ideas of how we can teach that to our class. Now this year I'll be doing it on my own. We did it as a co-op last year, which we loved, but we couldn't fit it in because we had such a busy schedule academically already, and so we've decided to do it on our own this year. For history, again, it's a family, so we'll be doing Story of the World, Volume 3, The Pre-Modern Times, and we will just kind of delve into the supplemental readings as we choose as we go through the curriculum. And my grade 5 student will also be doing Canadian history, and it's through the Alvieri, and these are the names of the books that they have chosen. Turtle Island, The Story of Canada, and Champlain. So that one, Champlain, is more of a biography. So those will be through the history guides from the Alvieri. For geography, we're also going to be doing the Alvieri's guides for geography. So this year we'll be studying Marco Polo, the royal kingdoms of Ghana, Mali, and Songhai, and the great rivers of the world. And they really put their geography really well together. I found it excellent. We did it last year. I taught it this past year at our co-op, and it's really planned out well. There's not a whole lot for the teacher to do, and the kids really understood the geography of the land, the map work, were able to memorize all the names and surrounding places and just so many things, and it was really well put together. For science, my grade 1 and grade 5 student will be participating in Berean Builders, and I just plan to design it so that it will be modified so that different things will be expected from the grade 1s. So I'll have students from grade 1 all the way to grade 8, and we'll be dividing their classes from 1 to 3, 4 to 6, and 7 and 8s. And they will be learning in different groups. I'll be following the same text, but teaching it slightly differently for each age grade. And for science, we're also going to be following the natural history from the Alvieri. And these are the books we'll be reading this year: The Wolves and Moose of Isle Royale, The Frog Scientists, and The Bat Scientists. The scientists in the field are such fun books. They're really great. My kids have loved them, and we're excited. We may even do some of these as a family read aloud in morning time to incorporate it in that way, but we are going to cover these books. I did not want to leave them off our list this year. Now, last year we read something called The Stories of the Roman Histories. I can't think of the name. If I remember it, I'll put a picture of it here. And that was a primer before getting into Plutarch. So in grade 5 is when the Alvieri begins the Plutarch, and their beginner Plutarch is called Publicola. Now this has been written by Anne White. It's an excellent book. A new revision of it just came out this year, and so I've received that and we're really excited to start it. Plutarch is a more complicated read. It's not something that you can just send your children off to read independently. It really is something that you can read along with them. So reading ahead of time so that you can help them through the more difficult parts is a good idea. For poetry, we're also going to be following the Alvieri's poetry guides. And one of the books is going to be the same, The Earth Under Skybearer's Feet. So that's something we can do together as a family. But my grade 5 student will also be reading a book called The Death of a Hat, A Brief History of Poetry in 50 Objects. And another book called The Book of Rumi, which is an old Persian, an ancient Persian poet that we'll be studying as well. For Bible, my grade 5 student is going to be learning to read the Bible independently this year. So she will be studying the New Testament, and she'll be reading a book called A Walking Tour of the Gospels. Now, the Alvieri actually has a much more in-depth study of the Bible for the students this year. They'll be reading the Old Testament 2 days a week, the New Testament 2 days a week, and then the 5th day will be church history. But I find that will be a little bit too much for my daughter to start off with from the beginning. So I'm going to slowly work her into it. We may move up to that next year. So this year will just be the New Testament and then independently. So the 2 days a week, reading that independently along with the Walking Tour of the Gospels book. Now for French, she will also be learning French along with the other students in our co-op. However, I'm also doing her own level of French this year. And the reason for that is because here in Canada, you have to have a certain number of French credit hours in order to become accredited in high school. We are going to be looking for a way to have her courses accredited because it does make it easier to get into universities. I think in the States you have less of a problem with homeschoolers getting into universities, but there are certain programs here where they don't admit high school students unless they have accredited courses. And so in order to do that, we do have to have a certain number of French hours. So we are doing a level 4 French right now, and it's called Mission Monde. It's a Canadian French curriculum, and we are going to be finishing off level 4 probably in the early fall, and then we will start the next year. It's actually level 1 is for grade 4, so we're in level 1, and then we'll be moving into level 2, which is for grade 5. They have one course called K-3, and then level 1 begins in grade 4. And again, for our composer and artist study, we'll be doing the same picks that I listed previously for my grade 1 student through Ambleside Online. For recitation, we'll also be using the recitation guide through the Alvieri, and I'm excited because she's going to be doing some recitation from Shakespeare. I think that will be so much fun. She'll also be reciting the Bible and poetry as well. And then both of my children together are going to be learning beginning sewing for their handicraft. I think we might just hone in on it for the whole year and really become expert at it. I think sewing is such an important skill. Being able to sew has really helped me in hemming my husband's pants and sewing on missing buttons and things like that. That's a skill I would really want them to learn. And so we're gonna just take it slowly and make sure that they can learn how to hand sew. That's all I have for you. Now stick around in future videos because I am going to be going through these subjects and showing you exactly how I plan to teach these subjects and how I plan it out and what we'll do, specifically in each curriculum in more detail. And also, I didn't mention any of our family read-alouds or our morning time subjects that we would do. I will plan that for a future video because I haven't totally nailed that down yet. But when I do, I will post a video here for you. I thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.